Om Gyanachimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is supposed to be a question and answer session. Questions are very important in bhakti. You may recall from the first canto, Munaya Sadhu Prishtoham Bhavadbir Lokamangalam. Questions are congratulated when they are beneficial for the welfare of the whole world. And that is how the questions in Srimad Bhagavatam are glorified. Only those types of questions pertaining to how to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how to connect with Him, only those are completely able to satisfy the self. Yenatma suprasidati. Looked at another way, questions in bhakti are generally about what will accelerate our spiritual progress and what will impede our spiritual progress. What brings about attachment to Krishna and what brings about attachment to the material energy. So within those very broad guidelines, you can ask whatever you want. Yes.
I wanted to ask about this concept of shadow work. Have you ever heard that term before? And how that relates to Krishna consciousness?
Well, you would have to explain what you mean by shadow work.
It's this new age term. Prior to Krishna consciousness, I had a lot of experience with emotional healing, trauma healing. Shadow work is this concept of looking at this side of ourselves that we have from kind of our shadow within and going into that. It's I wanted to see really how that relates in Krishna consciousness.
It is true that chanting Hare Krishna solves all problems. But there's a problem with that. Not everyone is chanting with the sufficient intensity to have all their internal problems resolved. Because of inattentive and low quality chanting, the inner transformation can take a very long time. Therefore, often remedial measures are needed so that someone can resolve their material perplexities and focus properly on chanting the holy name. Still, it is a fact that chanting Hare Krishna solves all problems. But sometimes just to get just like the difference between Hatha Yoga and Pranayama. Hatha Yoga is the postures. Pranayama, the breathing exercises. They're different, but they both work together to make you peaceful so that you can pursue self-realization. So similarly, many persons, especially these days, have traumas, they have anxiety disorders, and their chanting is not strong enough straight away to help them transcend. So remedial support efforts are often needed. But that doesn't mean the Maha Mantra is insufficient. Again, it is true, chanting Hare Krishna solves all problems. But what is the quality of our chanting? That is the essential issue. Okay? Very good question to start off with. Yes.
Yesterday you spoke a little bit about anxiety for Krishna. And as our Krishna consciousness advances, our material anxiety turns into spiritual anxiety. And I'm wondering how we can identify where this line is between material desire and spiritual, or material anxiety and spiritual anxiety, and be certain that we don't see ourselves as the proprietor.
Material anxiety starts as soon as you have a plan for your own selfish purposes. Prahlad Maharaj explains that the anxiety and the whole problem begins as soon as you make a plan for trying to achieve material goals. You can mark it right there, Prahlad says. That's where the anxiety begins, in the plan-making stage, not simply in the execution stage or the attainment stage. This is a very sophisticated understanding of where problems originate. The plan to be comfortable and secure in this world brings about anxiety. At the same time, as we discussed this morning, we can try to be as comfortable and secure as we can while knowing it's a temporary arrangement. But as soon as you make as your top priority material comfort and security, there'll be anxiety involved. What else did Prahlad Maharaj say? He's the expert in this subject matter. He told his father, Sada samadvigya dhyama sagrahat. As soon as you identify with the body and mind as the self, you must be in anxiety always. So he recommended to his father, Hittatma. He told his father, go to the forest. Cultivate spiritual development. Hittatma. Give up the place, give up the lifestyle that impedes your spiritual advancement. Take up a lifestyle that nurtures your spiritual advancement. That's the only solution to the problem of anxiety, which must be there as soon as we identify with the body and mind as the self. So Prahlad Maharaj is very clinical in his analysis. And he's saying this as a 5-year-old. His information requires deep consideration. It may seem at first that Prahlad is just firing away. It's like this, that's the way it is. It's like that, that's the way it is. But he's so brilliant, transcendentally, that his words require deep thought. And they can be quite shocking because they're so penetrating. Yes.
Krishna, I've been thinking a lot about what you said about how detachment from material desires comes from practicing the processes of bhakti. And
Attachment to material desires, what's that?
that attachment or detachment from material desires comes through practicing the processes of bhakti.
Yes.
I was wondering if you had any advice, like how to speed that up from where we are now.
That's a wonderful question, how to speed up the process of detachment from the material energy and attachment to the spiritual energy. Association. Try to associate with those you consider more advanced than yourself, and you'll pick up the urge to accelerate. So much of bhakti depends on association. You associate with those who have put the car in reverse, you'll go in reverse. You associate with those who are progressive, who want to move forward in a cool-headed, intelligent way. You'll also be inspired to do the same. So much depends on association. We become like whom we associate with. That's true in the material realm, it's true in the spiritual realm. In the most advanced stages of bhakti, in the most advanced stages of bhakti, in terms of relationships with Krishna, that's also influenced by association. So at the highest stages of bhakti, those who have a particular inclination to relate to Krishna in a certain way associate with those who have that same inclination. It doesn't mean they don't associate with other devotees, but to nourish that high-level relationship with Krishna, they derive inspiration in that relationship with Krishna by associating with those who have that same relationship. That's at a very advanced stage of bhakti, which we all hope to progress toward. You have to come forward from way in the back.
Hare Krishna. My question is, when you find yourself on this path, attempting to seriously take up bhakti seriously, and you may have friends or relatives that you want to bring along with you, how do you do so? And should you even try to do so in the beginning? But how do you do so, if so, in a way that is actually, like you said, intelligent and steady?
Nice question. It involves a very common phenomenon, especially when you're brand new to bhakti and you're sure that all your friends and relatives, or most of them, are going to be into it when they hear from you, because after all, they're your friends and your relatives. And then you're shocked to find out it's often not like that. And so in the beginning, there's a tendency to overdose your family relatives, overdose your friends. I'm into this, you know me. It's got to be good if I'm doing this. Gradually, you become more intelligent and learn how to gauge appetites. And often an example is better than precept, better than you're trying to convince them of the doctrine. Better you show by your own example transformation. That's why I always ask parents of devotees, have you noticed a change in your son or daughter? And almost always they say yes. They may not agree or understand what their son or daughter is doing, but yes, I've seen a change. So often that's the best kind of influence you can have, by example. But again, the common mistake newcomers make is to overdose their family, overdose their friends. I know in my case, my best friend, I never told him I was on the bhakti path. I never told him about the books I was reading. One day, out of the blue, he says to me, "Hey man, what's come over you? I'm going to have to find myself a new running buddy." I never saw him again. Sometimes it can be like that. Sometimes, though, your friends, your relatives will want to know, hey, You're different. You look more peaceful. What are you doing? Sometimes the seed you plant very subtly may take years to blossom. You see, everyone is at a different place in their cosmic journey, shall we say. They have different amounts of bhakti credits, no matter how slight, from previous lifetimes, or they have no bhakti credits. And so even though they're your friends, they're your relatives, they're at different places in their spiritual or non-spiritual journey. So you have to respect that and learn how to feed the appetite, how to discern the appetite and feed it. You develop that with skill. Take some time. Actually, there is no mistake you can make, because if you overdose someone, you are telling them the right thing. It's just not the best way. Gradually, you develop the art. And that development is based on compassion. Not, hey, I'm way up there now. You guys are out of it. Like, born again. Out of compassion, you learn how to discern someone's appetite and how to increase it. Not out of any feeling of superiority. Actually, you're thinking, if I can become a Krishna Bhakta, certainly you can, because I'm much worse. That attitude comes from Srimati Radharani at the highest level, who recommends devotees to Krishna. Krishna, this is a better devotee than me. Please accept this devotee. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Welcome to Gita Nagari. It's nice to have you here. My question is about attachment, detachment, the things we hear Bhakti 101 when it comes to Krishna consciousness. There's a lot of focus on understanding the material world, understanding our destination as a spiritual world. And I was just a little curious, is there any flaws to training devotees initially to learn that Krishna is in everything and in everyone? Like in the beginning, Bhakti 101, Krishna is in everything.
That's Bhagavad Gita. Rasaham Apsukontia, I'm the taste and water. Prabhashmi Shashisuyo, I'm the light of the sun and the moon. If we don't understand that everything is Krishna's energy, then how can we understand Krishna? Krishna is never separate from his energy. So that understanding is given in Bhagavad Gita. In the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains his vibhutis. Those are not the only vibhutis or opulences that Krishna has in the 10th chapter. He's taking leaders in every category and presenting, of this I am that, of that I am this. But actually, Krishna can't count his own vibhutis. He explains this in talking to Uddhava in the 11th canto. Krishna says, he can count all the atoms in all the universes because he's present in every atom. He can do that easily. He can count all the atoms in all the uncountable universes. But he can't count the vibhutis, the opulences that he has that manifest in each universe because they're always increasing. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to recognize everything in relation to Krishna. That requires purified consciousness to see in that way. Therefore, we have the bhakti process to equip us with the vision to see. Sometimes persons say, what you see is what you get. No, what you see is based on who you are, and who you are depends on your level of purification. So not everyone's seeing in the same way. Therefore, we can understand that knowledge in bhakti is state-specific. According to your state of consciousness, that determines how much you can understand. The pinnacle is as demonstrated by Ramananda Roy in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya tells him, you're seeing everything moving and non-moving as me, because whenever you see the energy, automatically, instantly, you remember the energetic source. So therefore, you're seeing Radha and Krishna everywhere. That's the pinnacle. We begin the journey to reach that ultimate goal by understanding Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravarjate. I am the origin of everything, material and spiritual. So this is why we start with Bhagavad Gita, proceed to the graduate study, Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the postgraduate study, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes.
I have two-part question. Part one is, how do we distinguish between the voice of mind and the guidance from Krishna? And second, how do we know that we are advancing in bhakti?
First question we'll take. How do we distinguish between
The voice of the mind
the voice of the mind?
and the guidance from Krishna.
That's why we have the Guru, that's why we have the Vaishnavas, that's why we have the Shastra. Otherwise, yes, we could become bewildered. The voice within has told me this, the voice within has told me that. Krishna is speaking to everyone in Bhagavad Gita. And then he promises, as we were discussing yesterday probably, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. For those who are constantly engaged in devotional service with priti, with affection, I speak to them. I give them customized directions how to come to me. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking generally. And that one size does fit all. But he also promises in Bhagavad Gita, I'll give you special tailor-made instructions for your personal situation to those who are constantly devoted with affection, priti. To attain that goal, we have the guidance of the Parampara, we have the guidance of the Vaishnavas, we have the guidance of the Shastra, so that we don't prematurely think we're on the Raga platform and that everything we do is inspired by the Supersoul within. You know, sometimes when devotees encounter something they like, they say, it's Krishna's arrangement, right? You're sitting there and someone puts a pizza in front of you. What do you say? This is Krishna's arrangement. Often it's our own arrangement. This is a common question that you've asked, a common question denoting a common situation. Because in the New Age world, intuition is considered very important. In bhakti, there is intuition coming from Krishna in the heart as a super soul, but that requires qualification. That's the real intuition. Krishna says, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sami Vishnu. I'm in your heart. From me comes all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So Krishna is actually controlling your perception. How much you can remember, how much you can forget. If you want to forget about Krishna, you need Krishna's help. That's how tiny we are. And if you want to remember Krishna, you need his help. But in our material state of false ego, we think our perception is totally under our control. It's all up to us, what we can understand. Just put it in front of me, I can understand it. So it's often shocking to realize how tiny and insignificant we are, even in matters of our own perception, our own understanding, our own knowledge. This is why we don't appreciate the dangers of the illusory energy. We think, I've got it together. I can see clearly. My sadhana has slipped, has gone away, but I can still understand. Actually, I don't feel any difference since I stopped chanting my rounds. I still believe in Krishna. Who are you to think that you're having a better spiritual experience than me just because you chant your rounds? We're all Krishna's servants, Prabhus. Things can degenerate in that way when we forget that everything about bhakti is state-specific. So therefore, the pinnacle of spiritual perception is demonstrated by Ramananda Roy in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's actually a confidential section. Ramananda Sambad, where he's telling Lord Chaitanya, first I see a golden sannyasi, and then I see something else. What's going on? He's seeing Radha and Krishna, because Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined. And Lord Chaitanya says, this is your vision that you're seeing. Don't reveal this. You're seeing Radha and Krishna everywhere because you connect the energy with me, the energetic source. That's the perfection. Srila Prabhupada would explain it in a very simple way. When you see something belonging to someone dear to you, you immediately think of that person. So similarly, when you look at the energy in proper bhakti consciousness, you're immediately thinking of Krishna. Just like when you see the sunlight coming through the window, you immediately think of the sun. You don't say, in the window is coming the shine. You say, in the window is coming the sunshine. You're connecting the energy with the source of the energy. So that's how Bhagavad Gita trains you to see everything in connection with Krishna. And of course, by our chanting Hare Krishna as a spiritual discipline, we gradually make progress to the point of seeing everything as diverse extensions of Krishna's energy. That vision comes from chanting Hare Krishna with attention. Just like Brajalila Devi Dasi was asking about. Education, to see everything in relation to Krishna. The prime method for doing that, besides hearing Bhagavad Gita, is chanting Hare Krishna with attention. The result of attentive chanting is seeing all the diversities as Krishna's energy. And then that further develops, just like the process of rock candy developing from molasses through to its various stages. The pinnacle, the solid rock candy of spiritual perception is to see as Ramananda Roy is seeing. But that's very high. Still, we should hear about these things to know what the ultimate goal is. We're not just about detachment from the material energy. We're not Buddhists. two things together, detachment and attachment. So when we hear about Krishna's pastimes, something in the heart will open up. Yes, yes. Our spiritual attachment is developing. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Buddha. I had a question concerning some deities that I will see in various ISKCON temples that I will visit. Sometimes it will be a specific incarnation of Krishna in different colors. So I was wondering if you could tell me the spiritual significance of these different variations of the same Krishna incarnation.
The same deity of Radha and Krishna in different colors, is that what you're talking about?
Correct. Like if it's Nrsimha Devi in different colors.
Oh, are you talking about completely different forms of the Lord, different avatars, like Nrsimha?
Like if it's the same, for example, if it's a specific, if we're talking about Nrsimha Devi, for example, you see him in one color, you see the same Nrsimha Devi in another color, and then you see, like you said, Radha and Krishna in two different colors. And
White marble or like Radha Damodar?
yes, I just want to know the spiritual significance of it.
The spiritual significance, to tell you the truth, depends on who you are. That determines what you're seeing. You may see white marble, someone else may see blue. You may see Lord Chaitanya's deity as white marble, someone else will see golden. So everything depends on the quality of your spiritual life. That determines what you see. As you make spiritual advancement, your perception of the deities will deepen. If you want to know the science of deity worship, I recommend a book by Prabhupada's disciple Krishna Kshetra Swami called Krishna's Wonderful Form, A Guide for the Perplexed. Because I find that most devotees, although they intuitively accept the deity as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, they don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? Just bow down, Prabhu. You'll understand. There's truth to that. Bowing down before the deity gives you realization, but you should also know how to explain it to others. Suppose your parents, they ask you, what are these statues you bow down to? Well, I guess it's just what you're supposed to do, you know? Even those from the traditional origin, our traditional congregation, Indian background, often they don't know how to explain it. So I asked this wonderful devotee, Krishna Kshetra Swami, who did his PhD at Oxford on this subject matter. I said, could you take your PhD work and make it accessible for the layperson? And the BBT published it. So I recommend that. Krishna's Wonderful Form, A Guide for the Perplexed. Are you just looking at works of art? Are you looking at idols? Ooh, that's a big one. Oh my God, my son is worshiping idols. How do you explain deities to someone who doesn't understand, who's from outside the bhakti culture? Very important. Of course, everything in Krishna Kshetra Swami's book is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just scattered throughout the whole 12 cantos. But if you want a concentrated explanation, I recommend that book.
Thank you.
So again, you can see the deities according to your level. Someone else will see differently. You'll say, well, it's white marble. Someone says, no, that's Sham Sundar. Blackish, bluish rain cloud. What are you going to say? You're both right. Just differing levels of perception according to the quality of spiritual advancement. All right? Hare Krishna.
Krishna Gurudev. I have a question about developing a sustainable spiritual practice. Living in the city, Brooklyn, I've seen a lot of people who start off on fire, they're good at everything, and burn out super fast and just end up deviating in strange ways. I've also seen people who, it's like they're kind of on cruise control. They're sustaining themselves, but it almost feels like they're surviving. So how do we build a progressive practice where it's sustainable and it's also leading to growth over time? It's not, we're not burning ourselves to the ground or stagnating.
It's a very good observation. Once again, bhakti is a guidance culture. You heard about Lord Chaitanya's instruction to Raghunath Das yesterday. Very surprising. He didn't just say, yeah, run away right now, be with me. For some, it was like that. Come on, let's go. Who was that? Who came to join him in Vrindavan? What was the name? Anyone remember? When Lord Chaitanya was visiting Vrindavan, one devotee met him and immediately left everything, left his home, left his family. Of course, he was of the right age. So sometimes that would happen, and sometimes Lord Chaitanya would say, stay at home, just like the Kurma Brahmana. He told Lord Chaitanya, after serving him lunch and washing Lord Chaitanya's feet and putting the water on the family member's head, the heads of his family, and then he said, I can no longer tolerate the waves of material existence. I'm tired of this family life. Let me come with you. And what did Lord Chaitanya tell him? No, don't speak like this. And he gave him the famous instruction, Yare deko tare koho Krishna upadesh, Amar agya guru hoya taro edesh. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna on my order. He said, if you do this, you'll reunite with me. In fact, if you do this, I'll always be with you. So he taught the Brahmana, stay at home, teach the science of Krishna. Whereas others, come on, leave immediately. Raghunath Das, not yet, not yet. This is all about guidance. You can't generalize for everyone. It's not one size fits all. So what you're mentioning is a phenomenon that involves the tragedy of not taking good guidance. I'm very grateful that in your case, you're associating in Brooklyn with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Keeps me from worrying about you. Whether you'll be swallowed up in the Big Apple. The more guidance we have, the more wealthy we are. So that makes the major difference. So always surround yourself with good guides, and you won't have to risk the phenomenon you just described. Hare Krishna. And then you can bring the mic up. I think the ladies have some questions.
Good afternoon, Your Holiness. Thank you so much for being here.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar. Very good.
So that is new, obviously, for me. And in general, your compassionate, skillful response to a previous question gives me courage to ask this. I'm coming to the realization that Krishna consciousness may not be for me. I came with a very open mind. Everyone's incredible and warm and compassionate and generous. Do you have any recommendations for someone going back to my life in New York City tomorrow, living an agnostic, non-theistic lifestyle, maybe 2 or 3 very basic practices I can implement in my life if I'm not going to become a devotee, so to speak.
Come visit us from time to time. Take some prasad. You like prasad?
I'm not sure what prasad is.
Spiritual food? Pizza? Lasagna? These, whatever moments you spend in bhakti will be your eternal asset. Even if you never come in contact with Krishna again, you're a marked man. The stamp is on you. Even if you just chant Hare Krishna once, Krishna notices that. So you may get away in this lifetime, but those spiritual credits that you attained during whatever length of your bhakti exploration, those are your eternal assets. Even New York City won't dissolve them. They can't be taxed, they can't be stolen. So maybe you won't do any further bhakti progress to your next life. Maybe you got to get worked over a bit more by the material energy. Which will do that very expertly. So we're grateful for whatever progress you've made. We're grateful for whatever contribution we can make to your life. But remember, you're a marked man.
This morning you have said that the noblest occupation for householders is agriculture. And I want to request if you can elaborate a little bit more on like how can somebody get into it. Like if you can elaborate more on that, how.
How can what?
Like how can someone get into agriculture as an occupation? If you can elaborate a little bit more on that. Because you said that's the noblest of occupations.
Yes, it's the noblest, but we don't live in noble times. In case you haven't noticed. If you can do it, great. But everyone can chant Hare Krishna. There's the ideal and then there's the current situation. We should know what the ideal is, but we also should understand the practical realities of our situation. There's great credit in knowing what the ideal is, what we hold above our heads, just like we were talking about Ramananda Roy's perceptions and realizations. That's the highest level of bhakti, way down the road, but we should know about these goals. That's why Chaitanya Charitamrita is so important. Lord Chaitanya is showing you by his own example the pinnacle of love of Krishna and separation. He's showing you that more intense than meeting Krishna is feeling separation from Krishna. You would think meeting someone, that would be the ultimate. But Lord Chaitanya is showing you, no, feeling separation from someone, that is the ultimate. That's the ideal. So about the noblest occupation for householders, yes, it's agriculture in a real human civilization, which we don't have. So when we get a real human civilization, yes, you can advise householders, be an agriculturalist. Now they'll look at you like you're crazy. Farmer, agriculturalist? Food comes from the supermarket. You don't need to grow it. Milk comes out of the container. Looks like James way in the back. Stand up, please.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Yeah, you mentioned today, about having a plan in bhakti. With myself, I'm probably like, I would say I'm a pretty big planner, but I keep it pretty vague. Regarding a plan within bhakti, my question is, when would be the right time to present the plan that I have within myself, within bhakti, to the spiritual master, or is it better to just seek just straight guidance?
Seek just what?
Guidance. And for an example, in Leela Mesa, there was a pastime of a devotee that presented Prabhupada a computer. And Prabhupada paid it no mind. And they began to mention, how this could be used in Krishna service. And then Prabhupada was interested. So is it better to just seek guidance? And also, if Krishna willing, plan goes completely to fail, then this is Krishna's mercy. But is it better to just seek guidance, or regarding your plan in bhakti, have something to present, or just kind of share the ideas with the spiritual master?
There are different types of disciples. Some disciples want to take full advantage of all the guidance they can get. Others are the opposite. I took initiation, I've got your picture on my shelf, that's enough. Ajamil Prabhu was laughing heartily. That's enough, right? So they're all different types of disciples. Just like in a hospital, they're all different types of patients. Some want to take full advantage of the doctor. Can you explain this? Can you explain that? I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Others, I'll do my own thing. Some or other, in Lord Chaitanya's movement, we have to have room for everybody. Just like a hospital has room for patients who want to hear everything from the doctor. Tell me what to do next, and then next. And patients who, the doctor comes in the room and the patients go and hide. The example I often give is school. How many of you were the type of students that were in the front of the classroom gobbling up every word the teacher said? Raise your hand. How many of you were the opposite, in the back of the classroom, doing mischief? And how many of you were in the middle, sometimes good students, sometimes making a nuisance? So it's like that in amongst disciples. Sometimes it's explained that they're disciples, and then there are disciples with a capital D. And they can change. You can go from the front of the classroom to the back of the classroom to the middle, all in one lifetime. Some or other, we have to be able to encourage everyone. It's like a teacher. I don't think, how many of you have been in a one-room schoolhouse or in a classroom where there are 3 grades in one class? So the teacher has to be very expert to engage in all types. To teach. I've been in a classroom. I went to Lutheran school as a little kid for 3 years. There was 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, all in one classroom. About 30 students and one teacher. And she was very expert. She could handle all that. So in bhakti, there's room for everyone. Even for the young man who says, that's it for me, I'm not pursuing bhakti. There's room for him. He has some appreciation. It's just he's decided. He thinks he's not going to do anything more. There's room for him. So if you want to consult and you feel you can take advantage of superior experience and knowledge in that way, go right ahead. But bear in mind there are going to be others who are the opposite. Ah, James, you don't have to be so fired up. Come on. You're going to burn out soon. Why don't you just burn out now and avoid the evening traffic? Water seeks its own level. So we seek out that association that matches our aspirations. In this way, we need to recognize what is inspiring association and what is association that will drag us backward. That's each devotee's responsibility. How to discriminate between different levels of spiritual advancement. Yes.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you for speaking. I was wondering, for myself, I'm noticing I have a desire to have this deeper connection with devotees, deeper relationships. And I'm wondering how we can, or how I can make myself more available for accessing those relationships from peers and from seniors to get more guidance, even though there might not be much of an opportunity to have physical association or to do services with them.
Don't overlook who's around where you are. Often we make the mistake of thinking, I've got to find someone far off to ask this question to. But often right around you, there are great saints, sadhus, sadhvis, female for sadhu. And we're overlooking them. Especially in the beginning stages of bhakti, whatever we're going through, so many others have already gone through. But we have this feeling that, this idea that what I'm going through is so unique. Generally, it's not. Generally, you can find someone who can address your situation very nicely, according to the level of spiritual intensity that you want. That's very important. Recognizing that you have a particular level of spiritual intensity that you want. And therefore you'll evaluate your association, consciously or unconsciously, according to that expectation. Look around and see who inspires you in the kind of lifestyle you want to live, according to your deep aspirations. So many jewel-like devotees everywhere. And they're devotees who, in the future, will be jewel-like. Industrial diamonds. So my point is, look around in your immediate area. Often there are devotees who can give you the experience and wisdom. Especially, you're becoming a householder, the plan is, at least I've heard. No need to reinvent the wheel. Have some grihastha advisors who walked on that path. Look for who's expert in living in the householder ashram and making progress. Take advantage of their experience and their wisdom. Way in the back there, looks like, is that Jiva Pandit?
Hare Krishna, Guru. you made this point that devotees, or that bhakti is a guidance culture. And I know that Srila Prabhupada also said that he wanted his devotees to become independently thoughtful. So could you help me understand what being independently thoughtful should look like in a culture that's so dependent on guidance?
Independently thoughtful means you yourself understand the science of bhakti and how to apply it and seek guidance accordingly. But you have to understand the science of bhakti. Unless you're fortunate in the way that you can associate with someone who knows, even though you don't know, but the necessity is still there for you to understand. That's why we have so many books, so you understand. So independently thoughtful means you have the right to understand the science of bhakti and apply it. It doesn't mean independently thoughtful that you can concoct and create. But you have your opportunity to be learned. You have the opportunity to be immersed in sadhana bhakti. That's true independence. You're making the choice. I'll get this wisdom. I'll live this bhakti lifestyle. And you get your own realizations from that. But if you just want to go forward based on sentiment, that's not being independently thoughtful. It's something. Many persons can come to bhakti with just sentiment. Yeah, I think Krishna's kind of cool, man, you know? I like the food. I like the way the girls are dressed. It happens. That's not being independently thoughtful. Become a man of knowledge. Then you can discern what is Maya, what is Krishna's service. Yes.
Just to continue on the topic of guidance, I know I myself, when I first came to Bhakti, I had a lot of traumas that kind of make it difficult to have trust in devotees or to seek guidance from them. And so I wonder if you have some guidance on that, and also
Guidance on what?
like if there's, young devotees coming into our movement, and they may have traumas and it's too traumatizing to, ask guidance, or seek help, then how can we help them?
That's why we have persons with your occupation. To give them that preliminary help. Isn't that what you want to do? So you're the answer to your own question. But let me tell you something. You talk about trauma. The entire material existence is a trauma. So when you solve one trauma, make sure that you also give guidance to solving the complete trauma package, which is material existence. Otherwise, you solve one trauma, tomorrow comes another one. Next life comes another one. So how do you solve the complete trauma package? That is the glory of bhakti. To help people have the headspace so they can think clearly, which is difficult these days, getting more and more difficult, as you've noticed. Many will need help in overcoming traumatic experiences. Still, chanting Hare Krishna solves all problems. Yes.
that they have never done before with peace Prabhupada. So how can we have that mood and consciousness to please the spiritual master?
How can we have that?
That mood and consciousness to please the spiritual master, that attitude.
Actually, I may discuss this tomorrow during initiation ceremony. Prabhupada wanted everyone to become a guru. He said, what is the difficulty? Lord Chaitanya has ordered, whomever you meet, wherever you go, teach the science of Krishna on my order. Chant 16 rounds at least, follow the regular principles. That was Prabhupada's criterion for being a guru. It's the order of Lord Chaitanya, not for one person, not for two persons. Srila Prabhupada envisioned thousands of gurus. It's there in so many of his instructions. It's there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He specifically explained, you don't need to understand Sanskrit. You don't need mystic power. Just take up Lord Chaitanya's order. Whether it's just in your family, in your neighborhood, in your nation, on your continent, on your planet. If you can be interplanetary, go right ahead. Just like you've taken a risk. You're a young householder, child on the way, and you opened up a preaching center in Los Angeles. Haribol! Of course, you have the full cooperation of your wife. That helps. And you're financing it with your savings. So it's not just that these things went on during the time when Prabhupada was with us. We can see it's happening now. Yashodev Prabhu and his Bhakti Center in State College. He's a married man with 2 kids. 2, or is there more yet? So he's a family man, yet he's taken up Lord Chaitanya's order. It's a risk. Sometimes he may not know how the rent's going to be paid. So it's happening. Devotees eager to give what has been given to them, based on compassion. So you have your preaching center in what part of Los Angeles? Near University of Southern California? You're trying your best. That's what Lord Chaitanya wants. Just do your best according to your situation. So if everyone does like that, automatically Lord Chaitanya's mission will expand. So that was Prabhupada's program. Everyone becomes a guru. And he would say over and over again, what is the difficulty? It's so simple. Just take up Lord Chaitanya's order. He's ordering you to do that. That was Prabhupada's point. Mahaprabhu is ordering that this should happen.
Hare Krishna, thank you, my question is in regard to judgment and how many of us are very judgmental. I speak for myself, I can find myself being judgmental at times. And with social media, it's very easy to judge others. How can we cultivate a non-judgmental mindset and just see everyone for as they are without judging?
Seeing everyone for what they are means sometimes you see mistakes. It's not that you see everyone as faultless, but while you may see the fault, you think, the reason I see the fault is because I have it more in me, and I'm the world's expert in that fault. Therefore, I can see it in you a little bit. Try that kind of consciousness. it's a great delight to see every devotee as an opportunity to learn something and to appreciate something. That is the greatest sport, the Vaishnava sport. Observing other devotees, appreciating them, seeing what you can learn from them, your life becomes so rich and wealthy in that way. What do you think?
I agree with that.
Nagari Krishna Prabhu.
Very so much. With regards to maintaining your position as a witness to the different aspects of your existence, so you're the spirit soul, maintaining your position as a witness to your movements of your mind, your intelligence, your false ego, etc. How do you do it as a daily practice through chanting? So, for example, there's extrasensory perception, like out-of-body experiences, telepathy, and all of that. So it's one thing to give a class on it and speak from the Bhagavatam about how material existence is doing this to us, but it's quite another to actually experience it daily through chanting.
Experience what daily through chanting?
Just extrasensory perception. So you're chanting, but you're experiencing that actually I'm separate from my body, I'm separate from my mind, and you're just daily experiencing this.
It depends on your level of chanting. Chanting begins with a cry to be engaged in Krishna's service. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. In the beginning, you may consider when you chant Hare Rama that you're referring to Ramchandra, Balaram, but as you advance, you know that Rama refers to Radha Raman, Krishna the enjoyer of the company of Radharani. So there's different levels of perception in chanting the Mahamantra. That's my point in saying that. You may take Hare as referring to Hari, but gradually, as your chanting deepens, you understand Hare is referring to Hara, Shrimati Radharani. So what you perceive when you're chanting depends on who you are. Your extrasensory perception, as you said, culminates in chanting with the urge, here is Krishna, here is Radha. Not, let me see how fast I can get my rounds done. Let me get through it as quick as possible. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Like it's some kind of calisthenics, you know? It can be like that, and sometimes we think, since my quality of chanting is so bad, better not do the quantity. But our bhakti practice means quantity first, because that's the order of the founder Acharya. And gradually you work on the quality. Sometimes devotees say, well, since my quality is so bad, there's no point in me doing 16 rounds. First, take the prescription the doctor gives you, and then your appreciation of the prescription will develop as the medicine starts to work on you. So take your proper dosage. I met several persons this weekend who I asked them, how much are you chanting? One said 2 rounds, another said 4 rounds. I said, great. Now make an incremental program for increasing. Add 1 round every week. One person told me, I'm jumping to 16 rounds tomorrow. I said, okay, go for it. So infrequently there are persons like that. So what you perceive, your ESP while you're chanting, depends on your level of spiritual advancement. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your class. One question is, how can we remain enthusiastic grateful even when the difficulties come, specifically being able to see Krishna's mercy in it and be able to grow from it rather than suffering
yes, that is a test that we all have to go through. When difficulties come, how do we see it as Krishna's mercy? How do we see it that actually I deserve worse and really feel that way? That takes a lot of prayer, begging the deities. Otherwise, we can become vindictive. We can retaliate. The lower self can come to the fore. How could you do this to me? Who do you think you are? How dare you minimize me? You are not aware of my glories. It's unjust. Guess what? Material existence is unjust. You want justice? Basically have to get out of the material world. That's no excuse for devotees to mistreat one another, though, but unfortunately it does happen. And it's a real challenge for one's spiritual life. You have to remember that verse from Bhagavatam, Tate Nukampam Susamikshamana. You know that verse? Wonderful. That's due to your upbringing. Generally, that's a verse we like to avoid, right? But Bhagavatam promises, take that consciousness, the verse recommends, of seeing all trials and tribulations as mercy, as a chance for you to become more strong in bhakti. With that attitude, you go back to Godhead. So that's your reward. You may not see your reward in this lifetime, but that's the back to Godhead attitude. And what's the material attitude? Revenge, retaliation, retribution. How could you do this to me? There's a higher way to handle the situation. And yes, it involves often a struggle, because everything in your system is telling you, how could this happen to me? How could you do this to me? So it takes a lot of prayerful concentration. But that prayerful concentration to apply that verse brings you closer to Krishna. That's the reward. Because it's Krishna's instruction. That doesn't mean we condone injustice, doesn't mean we condone mistreatment of devotees. But it can happen, unfortunately. We can control our own attitude. We can't control the whole world around us. So if you want to go back to Godhead in one lifetime, you take that verse that you memorized so nicely very seriously. And applying it can be the challenge of life, but it's worth it. Okay?
There's some questions in the back. You might have to stand.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock. We'll do a couple more. Yes?
Hare Krishna Gurudev, there's so much emphasis in our Bhakti teachings on the importance of devotee association, but I can at least say in my own life that for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, I don't have the opportunity to associate with devotees. You know, I wake up, go to work, do my duty worship, cooking, but, you know, otherwise I'm to myself. And so I'm wondering, how do I best engage myself progressively in this situation, or should I be prioritizing seeking a situation with more association?
Well, you go, which temple do you go to in the Bay Area?
ISV, but it's a very long distance from San Francisco.
How long a drive?
Well, I have to take the train. It's about a 3-hour train ride each way.
There's no center in San Francisco itself?
There's the Bhakti SF Center. They do some programs during the week.
Are you able to go there?
Sometimes I'm able to. My work tends to different things.
Well, you have to decide what's practical in your situation. It's not easy these days switching jobs. I've heard that a lot this weekend. Oh, my job. Oh, my God. I got to find another one. I'd say, are you sure you can find another one? It's not so easy. I was talking with Achyuta. She's a career counselor in Lewistown. Is she here? No. She's a career counselor in Lewistown. I said, what's it like out there? I hear so much talk about getting a job according to your propensity. And we both agreed, these days, your propensity is whatever job you can get. It's tough. So a lot of devotees this weekend have told me, my job is bad for my spiritual life, the hours. I say, it's true, but are you sure you can do better? Because the bills have to be paid. Babies cost money. Household life costs money. Even if you want to be a single person, costs money. Very few are ashram material these days. That means you got to pay for your existence. Right, Radha Sharana? So many times this weekend I've heard this about jobs. The schedule. Pays great though, and I need the money. If you can do better, get a job that better matches your spiritual schedule, by all means do that, but be very careful. Make sure that the next job is indeed better than the one you have now. As they often say, new boss means new job. You can get a new job and then the bosses change and what you thought was heaven turns into hell. Try your best. Krishna's in your heart. Live simply as you can. Live as simply as you can. Keep your main goal in life to satisfy Krishna and spread his glories. That will carry you through all the thick and thin of living in this world. That's why Lord Chaitanya told this to Raghunath Das. Keep that in your heart. Of course, we all wish, I guess, we had Raghunath Das's problem, right? Too much money. We think the problem is only too little money, but his problem was too much money. How many assistants did his father have him surrounded with? 11. What, 5 bodyguards, 4 Brahmana cooks, and 2 what? No, 2 Brahmanas and 4 servants and 5 bodyguards. So he had a problem. Last question. Is that Krishna, Dave?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So in Tulsa, I manage the Bhakti of Tulsa Center. And sometimes I get discouraged that the numbers, the amount of people don't equal preaching efforts, and I'm curious how to stay enthusiastic about that.
You're carrying out Lord Chaitanya's order according to your capacity, right?
Yes.
You're a family man, you're working, yes?
Yes.
You still have your own business?
Yes.
But that takes time, right? Follow Lord Chaitanya's order and you're satisfying Krishna. Whether 1 person comes or 100 persons come. Naturally, you want more to come, but become so attached to the effort to please Lord Chaitanya. That's the victory. You're trying this way, trying that way. The fact that you're trying is a great step forward. Just like I like the way Vaisheshika Prabhu talks about his monthly Sankirtan festivals, his strategy, how to get everyone once a month out distributing books. He tells them, Just by your walking out the door and your feet touching the pavement, that's success. Everyone relaxes. Oh. Just let your feet touch the pavement. That's all. You're successful. You're part of the monthly Sankirtan festival. Everyone just relaxes because they think, I'm not going out there, and it's going to be hard. I can't compete with the big book distributors. Who do I think I am? Who do you think I am? But he assures them, just walk out the door, let your feet touch the pavement. Success. So similarly, there you are with your preaching center in Tulsa. Sometimes what? No one comes?
At least 3.
At least 3. That's big. And sometimes, what's the maximum? 17 or 20 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. All the New Yorkers are cracking up. What's that song? I'm an Okie from Muskogee. So it's fantastic what you're doing. You're a family man, wife, child. Any more coming? And yet you have a center in Tulsa, the middle of nowhere, flyover country. And there you are, doing your best. It's wonderful. That's what Lord Chaitanya wanted. Every town and village, wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the science of Krishna, even in Oklahoma. So we're very grateful for your efforts. Just like with Vraja Kamuda Prabhu, his efforts in Los Angeles. You probably don't have to pay the amount of rent he pays, do you? But he's able somehow to just swing it. I don't know how he does it. I warned him, it's going to be expensive. But he took the risk. Seems to be working out, yes? You're balancing the books somehow? Huh? He's figured out prasadam distribution this way, that way. So just think if so many devotees did that. What you're doing in Tulsa, what he's doing in Los Angeles, what Yashadev is doing in State College. That was Lord Chaitanya's order. Not that everyone has to be an intercontinental guru. So please continue. We're grateful for your service. Thank you for your appearing at Gita Nagari after how many years?
I lost count.
Your family is very famous. Your mother is very famous. All right. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.